interesting company called Capital and Counties. It was spun off a while ago from Liberty International, and it's got an inward listing on the JSE. Its primary listing, though, is in London. And let me tell you exactly what it is. It is one of the largest listed investment and development companies in central London. It's got three main sources of income: Covent Garden, the iconic Covent Garden lifestyle centre, I suppose people might call it today, but I'm not going to call it that. It's got Earl's Court and Olympia, and also a 50-50 arrangement with Great Portland Estates, which is worth around about the West End properties that are shared, and £159 million worth is the share from Capital and Counties. On the line now is Ian Hawksworth from London to talk about the 6-month results to the end of June. They look pretty solid, Ian. Before we get into the numbers themselves, would you say that the high quality of your portfolio is not recession resistant and depression resistant, as some people might say, but sort of more resilient than sort of certain other properties that are listed in London?
Well, we focus on prime central London real estate, which is probably the strongest market sector at the moment in the UK, if not Europe. So having prime retail, prime residential development opportunities really underpins the attraction of the business.
Overall, 6.8% increase in diluted NIV to 177p, 4.8% increase in your property value to £1.6 billion, dividend declared of half a p, the same as last year at the interim stage anyway, and total retail value up 7.4%. So again, good solid stuff. It looks to me that Covent Garden really the star of the show over the last 6 months.
Covent Garden has been a fantastic performer for us really over the last 3 years. We've been on a journey of repositioning it into a prime central London retail and residential address, and we've seen a very significant increase in the level of rents, which has followed through to an attractive increase in capital values. I think now that the estate is established really as one of the prime addresses in the capital, we should see further growth going forward. But other parts of the estate have also performed very well. Earl's Court valuations are up about 4.8% on the back of increased activity towards gaining a planning consent for what will be London's largest mixed-use development. And we've seen good profitability out of the disposals from our joint venture with Great Portland Estates, the Great Capital Partnership. So solid performance all around. I'm very pleased with the way things are going.
Just going back to Covent Garden before we get onto Earl's Court and Olympia, if you would, Ian, you got 34 leasing transactions year to date, net rental income NRI of £4.7 million. And I remember the last time we spoke, I think it was 6 months ago, you'd also been attracting new tenants. What's the occupancy rate like?
It's full, basically. I mean, it's all looking spick and span, ready for the Olympics. The most interesting recent new tenancies is we opened a freestanding cosmetic store from Chanel, which is their first in the UK, and there's a cult multi-brand from the US called Opening Ceremony, which is also just opened for its first store really outside of North America. And there's a whole bunch of new restaurants that has opened. Raymond Blanc's opened a great new eatery. And Jamie Oliver's just opened up Jamie's Union Jack's for us in the centre of the old market building. So lots of activity and lots more to come.
Yeah, personally, I think I'd rather try Brasserie Blanc than Jamie's thing. I think he's a bit too ubiquitous, but that's just me. What about Earl's Court, the biggest mixed-use development in the UK? You mentioned, what is the state of play regarding planning permission and all sorts of other admin niceties?
Well, we're in the last stages of the formal application process for consent for the outline master plan for the scheme, which is for roughly over 1 million square metres of development, 7,500 new homes, and the balance of that is commercial real estate. So it's a very significant scheme. We're informed by one of the two local authorities that will opine on the application that they'll be considering the application in September. So hopefully we'll get some good news at that point, and then we can move on with the next phases of it. We have to do 1 or 2 land assembly related activities with adjacent landholders and also Transport for London. We're hoping that we'll be able to bring that in during the course of the next 6 months or so, and then we should be in a position to look at how to release value out of the development process for shareholders. Part of the estate has a detailed planning application already, and that's now subject to development next year for about 800 homes. So, you know, mate, we're hitting our milestones and we're making good progress.
It's an ambitious project. I mean, anything of this size, especially during the current economic times, must make you have a few sleepless nights, Ian. But are you confident that, I mean, once it almost comes to fruition and people are ready to move in, whether it be commercial or individuals, that the cycle would have turned, the economic cycle? Have you had good response to it already?
Yeah, well, the London residential market is very strong at the moment, but a scheme obviously of this size is going to go through several cycles. I think it's likely to take 15 years or so to see the site develop through. But it's a very flexible master plan. There's the wide range of residential accommodation, ranging from affordable through to high-end. There are 2 new high streets which offer really interesting retail and commercial opportunities. So it's a very flexible master plan that can be implemented carefully over a number of years. But at the moment, as I say, the strongest sector of the UK market is residential, where prices have increased quite considerably, and I think are probably now higher in central London than they were pre-recession.
Ian, we'll leave it there, but thanks very much for your time this lunchtime. That's Ian Hawksworth, the CEO of Capital & Counties, whose interim results, very solid interim results, were released earlier.